Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. This is Mikey of MikeySuzeFour, along with my beautiful wife Suzanne, and of course, you see one of the cats in the background. Moved by a deja vu. Welcome again to another TOS Tuesday Review. Today we will be covering a little bit extensively, not a lot though, because I don't go through all the trivia. But there are a few goofs, and I need to go through them, some quotes and other stuff. But today we are covering Balance of Terror, which is from season 1, episode 14. Hello, Brad Wolf07. Hi, Mikey. Hey, Brad. Welcome. Welcome. You're first in the box here, sir. So thank you for coming in. How you doing? Yeah, before I get started, Suzanne and I are doing just fine. Suzanne's still trying to get her appointment set up so that she can, get her knees worked on and everything else. But other than that, we're doing just fine. Yeah. And we have a birthday coming up in 10 or 9 days. Our girl, Moon Pie, is turning, our oldest daughter, fur baby, is turning 8 years old. So she's going to become like us, right around the 50s age. Suzanne is 59. Or is 58. She'll be 59 soon. I'm turning from 59 to 60. And this girl over there is turning 56 in human years. So, yeah. So and we have, oh, excuse me. And we have, I just had lunch. And then we, tomorrow, our friend Carmela is having her birthday over there in Australia. And she is our matchmaker friend. She is the one that somehow managed to keep us together while we were going through our first 5 year stage, trying to know each other, our weaknesses, our strengths, all of that stuff, to establish the time frame that we were going to stay together the rest of our lives and eventually get married. So tomorrow's her special birthday. Yeah. So yeah, she's a wonderful person. Her name is Carmela. Yeah, I don't want to say her last name because it's, she's been going through some tough stuff, tough times lately. So I just wanted to say her first name, Carmela. So yeah, that's fine. But yeah, other than that, everybody's doing okay. Larry's getting through his eye thing. He just had his eye surgery. So, but we're doing just fine, Brad. So I appreciate you asking. Okay. So let's get started because there's a lot to cover here, and I better drink the rest of this. A little bit there. Okay, so from TOS, The Balance of Terror. This came out December 15th, 1966. According to IMDb background information, over 6,100 people have rated this an 8.8 out of 10. Now, for myself, that would be considered like a 4.8 out of 5, and that's an A minus. It's pretty close to like 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Some people would put it that way. I really can't because I do have one or two issues with the episode itself. But other than that, I think it's a fantastic episode. And actually is one of the better episodes from season 1. So, you have Mark Leonard, who later played Sarek, and other stuff like that in the original series. Spock's dad, things like that. But here you have him playing the Romulan commander, and so yeah, good stuff. The director is Vincent McEvety. The writers were Gene Roddenberry and Paul Schneider. And of course, like I said, it features Mark Leonard as the Romulan commander. And I'm also going to do a quick mini bio on Lawrence Montagna, who played Decius in this thing. So, yeah. And of course, the usual suspects, Shatner, Nimoy, DeForest Kelly, Grace Lee Whitney, George Takei, James Doohan, rest in peace. Nichelle Nichols, rest in peace. Yep. So, all those people. Some of the original cast. If you notice, the only person it is missing, and I can see so far, from the episode was Walter Koenig, of course, played Chekhov, but he's not, I think he comes a little bit later again. I think he was working on something else that day when they were doing this episode. So, but, some of you more diehard Trekker people would know that. So anyway, let's take a look at the. I'm going to go a little bit backwards because there's some really quick information I want to go through first, and then we go into the big stuff. Okay. Now, of course, I don't need to read you the filming location, of course, which was Desilu Studios, Lucille Ball's place there in Culver City, California. The filming dates were from July 20th, 1966 to July 27th, 1966, so covers that whole week. And let's see. All right. And there were a couple of different songs. There is opening the wedding ceremony, um, a written song called Long, Long Ago. Nobody's claiming it, so that's the only information I have. Um, Performed as part of the wedding ceremony, of course, is the original, which you usually have played at weddings, is the bridal chorus. And it was written by Richard Wagner originally, or Wagner, but arranged by Fred Steiner, particularly for this episode. And then the theme from Star Trek, by Alexander Courage, not only played during the opening credits, but it also played during the ending credits as well for this particular episode. So pretty cool. All right. All right, let's get to the trivia. And let's see here. And before we do, let's see. Okay. Brad says, glad to hear that, Mikey. I'm happy for you, your wife, and the fur babies. This is one of my favorite Trek episodes. I agree. As I said, this was one of the best episodes to come out of season 1. It really was. And early on, too. So it was just, but to see okay, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but to see what happened to the Romulan commander at the end, a self-sacrifice, to make sure they don't get the technology. Of course, Kurt did later on. We all know that. The cloaking device and everything. But but in this case, I mean, Mark Leonard was just, he was making a stride, from Romulan space into Federation space. He's attacking a few colonies here and there, trying to get a lay of the land, trying to grasp how much power that the Federation had, Starfleet had. And I thought it was well done. I really did. I thought it was great. So, Brad, I totally agree with you there. Absolutely. Okay. So, here's a couple of bits of trivia. First of all, budgetary and time constraints prevented the makeup and costuming departments from dressing up each Romulan in Vulcan ears, as it was such a lengthy process applying them. So they hit on the idea of giving the lesser Romulans helmets, which were manufactured by Hua Chang. Mr. Chang was responsible for creating many iconic Star Trek hand props. Cool. Mark Leonard plays the Romulan commander, an apparent enemy of the Enterprise and its crew. However, later in his career, he played the famed role of Spock's father, Sarek, and also played a Klingon in Star Trek The Motion Picture from 1979, making him the first actor to portray the three major alien races, Vulcan, Romulan, and Klingon, in the Star Trek franchise. The plot of this episode is based on The Enemy Below. It's a movie from 1957, with the Enterprise taking the part of the American destroyer and the Bird of Prey, with its cloaking device, taking the part of the submarine. This episode was also partly inspired by another World War II submarine drama, Run Silent, Run Deep, from 1958, which was directed by Robert Wise, who then would later direct Star Trek The Motion Picture. And of course, this is the first appearance of the Romulans in the series. And when Leonard Nimoy held out for a better contract after the first season, Mark Leonard and Lawrence Montagna, who I'm going to take a look at today, were the two leading candidates to replace him as Spock. Nimoy eventually got a raise from $1,250 to $2,500 per episode. Very cool. There's a lot more trivia, but as I said, if it reaches a certain number, I won't do it. But I do have a few spoilers. So if you want to put your hands on your ears, if you haven't seen the episode yet, but if you have, That's great. But here we go. All right. Excuse me. The first spoiler. In the original script, Hansen warns before he dies that the Romulans used stolen starship designs to build their ship. This is why Stiles believes there are spies on the Enterprise. The part was deleted from the final print. In a deleted scene, before the Romulan commander destroys his own ship, Kirk salutes him, and the commander responds with a small bow. The Centurion's death scene was originally longer with more dialogue between the Romulan commander and himself, but it was trimmed for time. After the battle, Yeoman Angela is grieving in the chapel because her fiancé had just been killed in a fight with the Romulans. In the next voyage, shore leave, she is in the arms of another crewman, possibly reflecting the loneliness of grief and desire for comfort. Now, note, if stardates are to be trusted, which is rare in TOS, then the events of shore leave happen more than 3.5 years later. And in the James Blish adaptation of this story, presumably based on an earlier draft of the script, Stiles dies. In addition, Robert Tomlinson and Angela Martine actually marry in a second ceremony late in the story. When the Enterprise fires on the Romulan ship for the final time, the latter explodes immediately, with the conversation between Kirk and the Romulan commander being omitted. Okay, there's only a couple more. Balance of Terror is the basis of the Star Trek Strange New Worlds alternative version episode, A Quality of Mercy, aired July 7th, 2022. And in the William Shatner novel The Return, where Kirk is resurrected by a Borg Romulan alliance, and I read that book from cover to cover, it was fantastic, to kill Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the Romulan alliance is arranged by the granddaughter of the Romulan commander of this mission, convinced that Starfleet are brutal murderers and seeking revenge for her grandfather's death at Kirk's hands. Yeah, that was a big, huge plot twist in that book, but it was cool. Okay, now we have a few goofs. First of all, we have continuity. The Enterprise first glimpses the Romulan ship via Outpost 4's view screen. Yet after Outpost 4 is destroyed, the Romulan ship is still visible. When Kirk addresses the crew near the beginning of the episode, we briefly see Lieutenant Leslie listening in a hallway with a green shirt. We also see him at the same time in the background on the bridge with a red shirt. When the phasers are first fired at the Romulan ship, a large chunk of the ship falls on the captain's confidant and bounces off. The next scene shows the chunk on top of him. During the initial bridge scene, Leslie, wearing a red shirt, is seated at the engineering station. However, when Kirk addresses the crew over the intercom, the first extras shot in a corridor has him walking alongside extra Frank da Vinci and wearing a gold shirt. And the Romulan ship supposedly has only simple impulse power, which means slower than light travel. However, while the Enterprise is following them, it shows many stars passing by on the view screen, which means the Enterprise must be traveling many times faster than the speed of light. At sublight speeds, even nearby stars should show no perceptible motion, even over a very long period of time. Okay, there's about 3 more. The Romulan plasma weapon moves fast enough to chase the Enterprise while it's moving at warp speed, yet slow enough to be visible, moving from the bird of prey to the outpost. When Kirk is in his quarters lying on his bed, in close-up, he has his right hand behind his head, but in the reverse shot, showing Yeoman Rand entering, both of his hands are across his stomach. The purple smoke surrounding Spock in the phaser room varies greatly in thickness from cut to cut. Okay? All right, so here's a couple of factual errors. When a nuclear weapon detonates in space, there's no blast wave because of the vacuum. There's no reason for the crew members to have been thrown about. The effects are heat in the form of infrared radiation, subatomic daughter particles, gamma and other radiation, and an electromagnetic pulse that damages electronics. When the Enterprise is tracking the Romulan ship near the comet, the view screen shows the Enterprise passing multiple stars while the comet remains fixed on the screen. This means that the comet is either a very long distance away and light years long and illuminated by something other than a nearby star, or else it is traveling with the Enterprise at many times the speed of light. And there's no need for the Romulan ship to travel through the tail of the comet. While comets are large, even a slight change of course would have resulted in the ship completely avoiding it or its tail. And the Enterprise would not be able to get a look at the Romulan bridge by way of a small receive signal without the Romulans knowing their presence. And Spock says invisibility is possible with the selective bending of light rays, but the Enterprise has a wide array of sensors which do not rely on targets being visible. So invisibility is a useless defense. In fact, the Enterprise detects a blip moving through space, which should be sufficient for technology hundreds of years in the future to use to target the enemy vessel. Okay, before I read these next couple, I'm just going to go get another drink. So I'll be right back. Please stand by. Oh, let's move this over. I had to get some juice water from my throat because when I do a lot of reading. Okay. Okay, so let's see. All right, so there's a few more factual errors before we begin. Yeah, there we are. Oh, that book was named The Return, Brad Wolf. Yeah, it follows the events. Okay, let me briefly explain it. The Return was partly scripted and written by William Shatner. And what the events were, was after the Enterprise D crashed on Viridian 3 when Kirk died, after coming out of the Nexus with Picard. So some months or so now here's the best part about what Otoy did. He put in immediately, like this was only like a month or so after they recovered the ship, brought everything back. Spock goes there to see the burial mound of his friend. Okay, so what that means to me is that is definitely canon. It's got to be. It's got to be meant for as canon because he goes there, memories, all that stuff. Now, The Return, what that book says, and I believe it's canon, it should be. Most people say it isn't. What I think it should be is that the Borg and the Romulans have a common enemy, the Federation, Starfleet. So they feel the one man that can stop Picard from ever continuing his mission against the Borg or anybody else is to, resurrect Captain Kirk. And the Romulans have, at this point, they formed an uneasy alliance with the Borg, which is weird. And then they bring him back, and then he tries to, he wants to kill Picard, but for some reason, some events don't go well, and so that's how it is. The Return, yeah, it's a fantastic book, Brad. You should definitely get it. Yeah, and I think it's canon. I think it should be because and another reason I think it should be canon because it does follow events before Picard meets up again with the Borg in First Contact. And actually, if you think about it, it's probably the good reason why they decided to attack and go back in time to right around Cochrane so they could stop all this, so that the Borg could continue to rule the galaxy. And of course, we all know what happened with Star Trek First Contact. So yeah, it totally makes sense. And Red 5 standing by. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's finish these factual errors. A comet's tail is the result of radiation from the sun or any star as well as solar wind. Comets near the edge of the solar system have no tails. As they near the sun, their tails grow and always point away from the sun. They emphasized always. A comet in deep space, far from a star, would have no tail. Also, the tail is not like a streamer in the wind trailing along behind the comet as shown. The Enterprise is seen banking every time it changes course like an airplane. There's no air in space, and the Enterprise is not flying through the air, so there's no reason to bank. Further, since gravity is somehow generated on the ship, it could easily compensate for any inertial forces. And then Kirk tries to disguise the Enterprise by making it seem like a reflection, and the Romulan crew, except for the captain, also believes it is a reflection. A reflection has to have something to reflect from, and there is nothing in empty space to do that. Even if some anomaly affected the signal, it would not follow the Romulan ship over vast distances. And throughout the various battles, Captain Kirk calls for phasers, but photon torpedoes are fired. Okay, here's a bunch of them that are incorrectly regarded as goofs. Okay, while the Enterprise is lying in wait for the Romulan ship, both crews are whispering and trying to make no other noises. As there is no sound transmission in space, this would seem to be unnecessary. However, the same equipment that can detect dust on a planet light years away is lightly sensitive enough to detect the hull of a ship vibrating ever so slightly from sounds made within. This element is a tip of the hat to that submarine war movie, such as The Enemy Below from '57, which were the basis for this story. In his initial log entry, Kirk refers to the Romulan homeworlds as Romulus and Remus, after the brothers in Rome's founding legend. When Spock displays the star sector map, it shows Romulus and Romi. However, it is possible that the second name was meant to be Rom 2, or an example, Romulus 2, a star chart designation for Remus. When the Enterprise is hit by the nuke, it is shown lopsided drifting in space. Same depiction with the Romulan vessel when it is hit by phasers of the Enterprise. There is no off-kilter position in space, and orientation is relative, although ships do have attitude control to maintain a particular orientation, presumably for convenience. But the orientation depicted in the show is terrestrial, naval-like, where the bottom of the ship aligns with the bottom of the TV screen. A nuclear device detonated less than 100 meters away would have destroyed the Enterprise, no matter what the Enterprise hull was made out of. The temperature of a nuclear blast is between 50 million and 150 million kelvins, and tungsten, the metal with the highest melting point, melts at 2,000 kelvins, about 1/5000th of that temperature. Even at 100 meters, the part of the hull facing the explosion would be completely vaporized, and even the farthest part of the ship from the blast would be destroyed. This presumes that the Enterprise was hit without its shields raised. As the ship had maintained a high security alert, it is reasonable to assume its shields were raised and spared the ship from most of the potential damage. Okay, here's a few revealing mistakes. When the nuclear device is detonated and Enterprise crew members are thrown about the bridge, Lieutenant Uhura is thrown in the opposite direction from all of the other crew. That's funny. When the order to fire phasers is given, the ship is shown firing what in most other episodes is called photon torpedoes. When the disabled Romulan ship is spinning in space, the hanging wire is visible. Phasers emit two straight beams, but when Kirk orders phasers to fire, three missiles are launched and explode, which indicates they are photon torpedoes. The Romulan's weapon is shown to be able to travel at speeds comparable to warp speeds, as it is shown almost overtaking the Enterprise. The problem with this is that the weapon's beam would have to generate an enormous level of power to travel distances or of at least a single solar system in the time allotted. The beam should not be able to travel faster than warp speed, especially if it was launched from a sublight vessel. Okay, here's a couple of miscellaneous ones. Rand, a yeoman, not a member of communications, should not be relaying the message to Captain Kirk that the command base supports whatever decision Kirk has to make. A critical message like this during a battle situation, even though the battle has just recently concluded, would get relayed immediately by Uhura via the intercom system. Like any movie where a character is being chased by a car and runs down in the middle of the street, the Enterprise could have avoided the plasma blast by simply moving out in the line of fire. Surely a master tactician like Kirk would have realized this. All right, there's a couple of anachronisms. The first one is during the briefing, it is pointed out that aiming weapons with sensors rather than visually is not accurate. This is centuries in the future where technology is much more advanced than today, where there is no reliance on line of sight to get to target enemies. Even today, fighter planes target enemies that are not visible, and missiles do not necessarily rely on visual aiming. Also, it makes no sense for weapons to be fired from another deck at a separate location, like an old time warship, firing guns from a turret in other location on the ship. That far in the future, everything should be controlled from the bridge by computer. Even worse is the wasted time in having the captain give the order to a crewman who relays it via radio to the weapons room, where a crewman then gives the order to another crewman who fires the weapons. All right, here's a few plot holes. It is established that the Romulan ship moves at impulse speed only. The Enterprise spends a good deal of time at warp speed, yet never manages to overtake the Romulans. Phaser control is shown to be in a totally different room than the bridge, yet somehow a short in Spock's sensor board renders the ship's phasers totally inoperable. While the exact parameters of impulse speed are not defined in the episode, it's clear from several conversations that the Romulan ship traveled slower than light speed and apparently does not have the capability to travel using warp drive. If the ship could not travel at warp speed, it would take weeks or even months for it to travel the stated distance to either the Earth outpost or back to the neutral zone. The episode clearly takes place over the space of one calendar day. The Romulan captain should have realized that his weapon is designed to destroy the stationary outpost, and as such, would be worthless against a highly mobile enemy ship. The enemy ship would simply have flown out of the way. Thus, he would never have wasted the energy required to fire the weapon on a worthless attempt to destroy the Enterprise. Kirk knows nothing about the Romulan ship nor its invisibility shield, and he confidently makes a statement about its power consumption, information he cannot possibly know. There's a couple more here, real quick. Stiles asserts that there could be Romulan spies on the Enterprise. Sulu agrees, and the suspicions of the crew are aroused. Since the Romulans have had no contact with the Federation for over 100 years, it is impossible for them to have gotten a spy through Starfleet Academy, much less onto the Enterprise, the flagship of the fleet. And also, they know the exact course of the Romulan ship and are much faster since the Enterprise can travel at warp speeds, so they can easily overtake the Romulan ship and fire on it rather than follow it around. Okay. And last but not least, there's a couple of character errors. But before we get to that, let me just read my thing here real quick. My phone is ringing, but I'm going to let it go to Messenger. Okay. And Larry, hi. Brother Larry from Beer Sub Adventures. Larry, I hope you're feeling okay. Hey, Mike. Unfortunately, I can't stay. I got a lot going on today. Remember Spaceballs for tonight. Have a good stream. Yes, Larry, I hope to make it for you tonight. Make sure you page me, okay, on Facebook Messenger when it gets close to your time. Okay. Yeah, please let me know. But thank you for coming in. We got 2 likes. Good. And still 2 people watching. So thank you, Larry. Okay. I had to take a drink there. Sorry about that. It's just juice water. See, it says a water bottle. Anyway. Okay, so the last few goofs here are character error. Kirk should have recognized that the Romulan weapon is not capable of turning and been able to fly laterally to the course of the weapon to avoid it. While officiating at a wedding ceremony, Captain Kirk says, since the days of the first wooden vessels, all shipmasters have had one happy privilege, that of uniting 2 people in the bonds of matrimony. This is false. While the fictional Starfleet's regulations may allow captains to perform marriage ceremonies, there is no record of any maritime service in Earth's history having done so. The American, British, and Russian Soviet navies have always specifically prohibited their commanding officers from doing this. When Kirk complains about the responsibility that has been thrust upon him and asks, "Why me?" it should be considered that he supposedly sought Starship Command his entire career. And finally, when Kirk addresses the crew, there is an immediate cut to a corridor full of personnel when he says, "In our first action, we can risk neither miscalculation or error." At the far left is a crewman in a yellow shirt, playfully nudging the person beside him as if to say, "Hey, listen up. This is important." That's cool. Okay, so I talked about the soundtracks, I talked about the filming and the production. So let's take a look at the quotes. Last but not least today. All right. And like I said, I'll just mention who's saying it and then say it. So I don't read all the other obtuse additional information. I try not to anymore. Okay, so first of all, the Romulan commander is speaking. So he says, "I regret that we meet in this way. You and I are of a kind. In a different reality, I could have called you friend." He says, "We are creatures of duty, Captain. I've lived my life by it. Just one more duty to perform." And then McCoy says, "In this galaxy, there is a mathematical probability of 3 million Earth-type planets. And in all of the universe, 3 million galaxies like this. And in all of that, and perhaps more, only one of each of us. Don't destroy the one named Kirk." And then there's something between Styles and Kirk. "I was suggesting that Mr. Spock could probably translate it, sir. I assume you're complimenting Mr. Spock on his ability to decode?" "I'm not sure, sir." "Well, here's one thing you can be sure of, mister. Leave any bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge." Then the Romulan commander says to his, also, the Centurion is in here too, so he says, "He is a sorcerer, that one. He reads the thoughts in my brain. Take care, Commander. He has friends, and friends of his kind mean power, and power is danger. Danger and I are old companions." And Kirk says, let's see, something, and then he's got Styles, and it looks like Dr. McCoy and Mr. Spock. Okay. Let's see where we are. Okay, there we go. Okay. I'll try my best. He did exactly what I would have done. I won't underestimate him again. "These are Romulans. You run away from them and you guarantee war. They'll be back. Not just one ship, but with everything they've got. You know that, Mr. Science Officer. You're the expert on these people, but you've always left out that one point. Why? I'm very interested in why. Sit down, mister." "I agree. Attack. Are you suggesting we fight to prevent a fight?" "Based on what? Memories of a war over a century ago? On theories about a people we've never even met face to face? We know what they look like." "Yes, indeed we do, Mr. Styles. And if the Romulans are an offshoot of my Vulcan blood, and I think this likely, then attack becomes even more imperative. War is never imperative, Mr. Spock. It is for them, Doctor. Vulcan, like Earth, had its aggressive colonizing period, savage, even by Earth standards. And if the Romulans retain this martial philosophy, then weakness is something we dare not show." Then Spock continues, "Referring to the map on your screens, you will note beyond the moving position of our vessel a line of Earth outpost stations. Constructed on asteroids, they monitor the neutral zone established by treaty after the Earth-Romulan conflict of over a century ago. As you may recall from your histories, this conflict was fought by our standards today with primitive atomic weapons and in primitive space vessels, which allowed no quarter, no captives, nor was there even ship-to-ship visual communication. Therefore, no human, Romulan, or ally has ever seen the other. Earth believes the Romulans to be warlike, cruel, treacherous, and only the Romulans know what they think of Earth." Then Romulan commander says to his subordinate, Decius, "It is time. All debris into disposal tubes. Yes, Commander. The body of the Centurion, too. Forgive me, my old friend, but I must use all my experience now to get home. Then Kirk says, along with Styles, I wish I were on a long sea voyage somewhere. Not too much deck tennis, no frantic dancing, and no responsibility. After a whole century, what will a Romulan ship look like, Mr. Styles? I doubt if they'll radio and identify themselves. You'll know, sir. They're painted like a giant bird of prey. I had no idea that history was their specialty. Family history. There was a Captain Styles in space service then. 2 commanders, several junior officers, all lost in that war, sir. Their war, Mr. Styles, not ours. Then the commander and the scanner operator talk, and so we go visible. Attend the cloaking system. It consumes much power, Commander. With no enemy to concern us, that Earth outpost called it to an Earth vessel. Now it follows us. Which neither retreats nor grows nearer, which turns as we turn. Commander, it is our judgment we run from a reflection. Perhaps so, but my judgment prevails. Kirk and Sulu. Since the days of the first wooden vessels, all shipmasters have had one happy privilege, that of uniting 2 people in the bonds of matrimony. And so we are gathered here today with you, Angela Martine, and you, Robert Tomlinson, in the sight of your fellows, and in accordance with our laws and our many beliefs, that you may pledge your alert, alert, all decks alert, 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 captain to the bridge, all decks alert. Captain's log, stardate 1709.2. Patrolling outposts guarding the neutral zone between planets Romulus and Remus and the rest of the galaxy. Received an emergency call from Outpost 4. The USS Enterprise is moving to investigate and assist. Then it's Styles and McCoy. We enter the neutral zone in 1 minute, Captain. Do we violate the treaty, Captain? They did, Doctor. Once inside, they can claim we did. A setup. They want war, we furnish the provocation. And then Kirk and Sulu and Spock. Go to full magnification. Screen is on full mag, sir. I don't see anything. Can't understand it. Invisibility is theoretically possible, Captain. Selective bending of light. But the power cost is enormous. They may have solved that problem. Centurion says, our portion, Commander, is obedience. Tomlinson. Happy wedding day, almost. Angela says, You won't get off my hook this easily. I'm going to marry you, mister. Battle or phaser weapons notwithstanding. And Decius says, My commander sent for Decius. A message was dispatched. You have broken the rule of silence. Only in code, Commander, to inform our praetor of this glorious mission. Your carelessness might have ended this glorious mission. Hansen with Kirk and Uhura. I have you on my screen now, switching to visual. Tie us in. Tied in, sir. Enterprise, can you see it? My command post here. We're a mile deep on an asteroid, almost solid iron. And even through our deflectors it did this. Can you see? Then Sulu, Kirk, Spock, and Styles. More wreckage, sir. Scattering across our path. Ceasefire. Debris on our scanner, Captain. Analysis, quickly. Same type as before, except 1 metal cased object. Helm, hard over. Phasers, fire, point blank. Phasers, fire! Boom. All right, and then scanner and commander. At last, the screen is clear. Clear? Our reflection no longer follows us. Escape maneuver 1, quickly. Sweeping the area of Outpost 2, Captain. Sensor reading indefinite. Double checking Outpost 3. I read dust and debris. Both Earth outposts gone, and the asteroids they were constructed on, pulverized. From the outpost protective shield, cast rhodium. This is the hardest substance known to our science. Wow. Lieutenant Uhura, inform command base. In my opinion, no option. On my responsibility, we are proceeding into the neutral zone. We're minutes away, Hansen. What's your status? Outposts 2, 3, and 8 are gone. Unknown weapon completely destroyed. Even though we were alerted, had our deflector shield on maximum. Hit by enormous power. First hit blew our deflector shield. If they hit us again with our deflector shield gone, do you read me, Enterprise? Yep, very cool. Alrighty, and I did mention the soundtracks and the background information on the production, and it was for a week. So that's it. We are done today with the episode Balance of Terror. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of 2 mini bios here. One on Mark Leonard, who played the commander, and Odysseus, his subordinate, or subtal, I guess is what they call it. Okay. So, yes, I know we did lose Mark Leonard back in the 90s, back in 1996. And he was an American actor, Mark Leonard, primarily known for television roles. He is primarily known for playing Vulcan Ambassador Sarek, Spock's father in Star Trek The Original Series, and a number of its spin-offs. In 1924, Leonard was born under the name Leonard Rosenson in Chicago, Illinois. His father was Abraham Rosenson, a Russian Jewish immigrant who eventually owned his own tourist resort in South Haven, Michigan. Leonard was primarily raised in South Haven, and then he joined the United States Army in 1943. So, yes, he did the motion picture as a Klingon captain. He did Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, as Sarek. He did Sarek again for Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, and finally in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. And according to this background information, the final thing he worked on before he died was Star Trek Omnipedia. That was a video game, and he was the narrator. He did the voice of the narrator in that video game. So that was Mark Leonard. Yeah. Did a lot of great stuff, too. Other TV series and stuff. Okay, now let's take a look at his subordinate, Lawrence Montagna, who played Decius. Okay, Lawrence did pass away, unfortunately, in 2017, and he was born February 26, 1931. He died March 17th, 2017, so he was 86 years old. Oops, and I forgot to mention, stupid me, I forgot to mention Mark Leonard. He was born October 15th, 1924, and he died November 22nd, 1996, at the age of 72. So, that was Mark. Okay, now let's take a look at Lawrence here. Okay, every actor should have a great escape, wrote actor Lawrence Montagna in his autobiography, A Vulcan Odyssey. He was referring to the Great Escape movie in 1963, in which he played a small role as a Canadian prisoner Haynes who gets killed at the end of the film. Nonetheless, this was his self-declared favorite and career-defining part. For most of us, Montagna will be regarded as one of the most prolific science fiction actors of the era. He was the robotic Mr. Glee in 2 seminal episodes of Batman vs. the Joker. As Yellow Elk, a Native American, finds himself in the base of the time tunnel as a thrush agent on The Man from U.N.C.L.E., who manages to infiltrate U.N.C.L.E. headquarters as a sinister alien assassin in The Invaders, and on Star Trek as Spock's Vulcan Ponfar rival Stone, and also as Decius, the first Romulan ever glimpsed on 2 episodes of the same series. That's so cool. Yeah, he died of natural causes on March 17th, 2017 in Henderson, Nevada. Oh, where one of my other friends lives. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so he played Haynes as part of Diversions for the Great Escape in 1963. And like we said, he played Decius and Stone in 2 episodes of Star Trek. He was in Captain Sinbad as Jafar in 1963. And then he was in an Italian movie called I Briganti Italiani, where he played O Prevete in 1961. The last movie he worked on, a video, was Star Trek of Gods and Men. he played Stone, and that was in 2007. Yeah, I do remember him in that. So that is so cool. And let's see. And he was in the series Dallas for one episode as the Secretary of Texas Energy Commission back in 1982. And he did a TV movie in 84 called License to Kill as Sergeant Hartman, and Dakota, a movie playing Mr. Diamond in 1988. But I did remember him in Star Trek of Gods and Men. So that was so cool that they brought him back before he died 10 years later. So very cool, very cool. Okay, so let's take a look at the next. Yeah. So let's take a look at the next episode we're going to cover next Tuesday. And that is Shore Leave. And, you know, the White Rabbit. and Finnegan beating up on Kirk and all that other stuff. So, yeah. So that's going to be fun. That'll be Shore Leave next week, Tuesday around 1 o'clock. So around 1 p.m. Eastern. Okay, let's also talk about The Greatest American Hero. We've got 2 more episodes from season 3, which are episode 13 and episode 14. And let's see. We'll mention those 2 episode titles real quick. All right. Okay. So the last one, which premiered officially or is considered by the background information as an official episode, was season 3, episode 13, called Vanity Says the Preacher. And then the last one, now this didn't come until 1986 or 87, right around that time. NBC was filming a pilot for a future series. It was going to be called The Greatest American Heroine. And that was where the aliens told Ralph tell Ralph to find a suitable replacement for himself when his secret identity is revealed to the world. Much to Bill's disgust, he selects a woman to be his successor. And it wasn't rated very highly. So that's why, due to uh, the low ratings and the fact that people were just, they were happy with, I guess, how um, The Greatest American Hero ended, or maybe they were displeased. However they felt, that was going to be the spin-off series, and it never happened. But it is considered canon, I guess, according to the background information with IMDb, as being the final episode of the series. So, yeah. So we've got of the entire series. So tomorrow we've got episode 13 and 14 from season 3. So that is going to be great. Okay, and Brad Wolf says, okay, Mikey, I've got to go. Got to sleep before work. Live long and prosper, my friend. I can't do this. Yes, I can, if I put it together myself. Live long and prosper, Brad. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And welcome. Hi. Hi, Scott. Anchorman is here. Thank you, Anchorman, for being here, honestly. We just finished going over the episode here of the Balance of Terror. I will tomorrow, or sometime tomorrow, Wednesday night, around that time, I'm going to send you a copy of our next Star Wars fan film we're covering for Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, which will be Vader, Shards of the Past, Part 1. And then what we'll also do is we'll just briefly talk about Part 2. I know a little bit more about it, but it's not really a big, it's not a big part of it. It's just a little side bit. So I'll mention that too. But that'll be this coming Saturday. So hopefully, Scott, you'll be there. We're also going to have, hopefully Eli will come. And we'll also invite Brother Jay Aldridge. We'll invite Charlotte Nightstar the Werewolf. And we'll invite our new friend, Palandoy. Yeah, he became friends with me on Facebook. So we do. And of course, our other friend, Sif Dan, Daniel. So, yeah, we're going to have a pretty full crew. But hopefully that's good because we'll have a lot to talk about Star Wars theory and how his YouTube channel and how he's trying to put together the other two parts, part 2 and part 3, which is going to be a mammoth task according to him. So we'll see what happens with that. So, but I'm glad to see you, Scott, and I have seen a couple of your videos. Very good material. And Eli too, you can pass along to him. I've seen them as well. Very good videos. Okay, so I got to take another drink of this, and then we're going to go ahead and there we go. Like I said, I gave my final grade as an A minus, 4.8 out of 5. So it was very close to 5 out of 5, complete A plus plus and everything. It is a great episode. I will not doubt that. But the thing is, when you see a lot of goofs like that and some inconsistencies, yeah, you think the story itself, of course, it is just fantasy and science fiction and whatever. So it is good for that. But I mean, but as far as like all the other stuff, that's for me. Okay, I know I'm a nitpicker. I know I am, but that is the only thing that really keeps it from an A plus for me for a perfect score. Is the fact you had some of those goofs that were very distinctive. I mean, very prominent inconsistencies. But other than that, everything else was just totally awesome. So yeah. So rest in peace, Mark Leonard. Rest in peace, Mr. Montagna, who played Decius and Stone. Um, you guys did a great job in that episode. Um, close your ears. When the Romulan commander, the only last option he had was to initiate auto destruct for the ship to make sure that the cloaking device and anything else that was important was not stolen by the Federation. We find out later on that Kirk, with the help of Spock, was able to get on board a female Romulan commander and steal the cloaking device for use for the Federation later on. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting, that episode, but it's a lot of fun. So, all right, so let me do this quick prayer. So, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, dear Lord, thank you for everything you give us in life, and of course, thank you, Lord, for all the people we know through social media and through other means. Good people out there. And yes, we do still pray for the souls of the bad people, some of the dark souls we see out there every day, or every other day that we deal with people in this world. And we'll still pray for them. Hopefully, they can have their lost souls found by you, Lord, and then saved, and by your Son, Jesus. So, with your Son, Jesus Christ, and the Father, Lord, and of course the Holy Spirit, the Blessed Virgin Mary, who raised him on earth before she went to heaven without sin, and of course all the other saints, angels, everyone in heaven, and our patron saints, Saint Suzanne, as well as Saint Michael the Archangel, Saint Michael the Archangel, defender of heaven, who sent the evil one and his minions out as fallen angels. We ask for all of you to pray for us during this important Lenten season that Christians and Catholics are observing. Pray for the other religions as well, that they observe their own individual respective traditions. Purim, of course, which is coming up on Friday the 14th, and Ramadan, which was followed at the beginning of the month, and some other important holidays. So make sure we all uh, be respectful of each other and of one another. And with all this, we pray, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. So I want to thank Anchorman. I want to thank Brad Wolf. I want to thank Larry, my brother of almost 50 years from Beerself Adventures. I hope uh, your recovery goes well continuously here, Larry, and I hope you're doing fine. And so, gentlemen, all of you, thank you so much for being here. 3 likes. And take care of yourselves, everyone. out there. And as you know, in the words of the great Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune, the aisle's now closed. So take care, everyone. And as we like to say, Larry says, always be yourself. My wife says, leave everything in God's hands. And finally, I always say, always expect the unexpected. Everybody or everyone, whichever one you want to be. So, last but not least, God bless America. God bless Canada. God bless the entire rest of the world that we live in. And of course, peace from MikeySuzeFour and from our beautiful cats, Moon Pie and Deja Vu. And by the way, in 9 days, as I mentioned, Moon Pie is going to turn 8. So we will have a little mini uh, celebration. It might just be me and Suzanne doing a little live stream, but we're going to celebrate Moon Pie. So, yeah, hope you guys and gals will come in on that on the chat, watch us for a few minutes. We're only going to be on for like, I think, a half hour or so. Um, but we do want to be respectful of our beautiful cat and our baby, and we're gonna have pie, or we're gonna have cake for her. We'll have cake for us. So it's a little party celebration. You folks get to enjoy it. So we'll do that on the 20th of March. But in the meantime, this coming 15th of March at 1 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing our next Star Trek and Star Wars fan film series. We'll be doing a Star Wars fan film this time, and it's called Vader's Shards of the Past, Part 1, from a YouTube channel called Star Wars Theory. The man is very thorough, he's very detailed, and he put together this very first fan film of his with a lot of heart, a lot of dedication. He hired the best people he could find for it, and he used a lot of fundage. Mm-hmm. A lot of it donated by you folks, but also some of his own personal funds to put it out there. And I have to say, it's one of the best Star Wars fan films I'd ever seen. And I'm very picky when it comes to fan films. I believe I am. So to say that this one was very good, I it's true. I believe it. Anyway, so until then, take care, everybody. We'll see you soon. And oh yeah, there's a problem there on aisle 10. I'm gonna ask Larry to fix it before we watch his Spaceballs watch party tonight. So everyone, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you then. Peace.